Hello Thrivers. Today I wanted to talk about 6 things that can cause a person to self-sabotage when they're trying to work through complex PTSD recovery and or narcissistic abuse recovery. Okay, so if you have been on this journey to heal and you have felt stuck, if you feel like no matter how hard you're trying or the efforts that you're putting forth into healing, you kind of feel like you're chasing your tail and you've been in that situation for a long time, you may want to listen to these 6 reasons as to why a lot of people wind up sabotaging their healing journey and see if one of them is what might be holding you back. Okay, so with that in mind, let's get started. For those that don't know me, my name is Michelle. I'm a life and relationship coach. I'm also the founder of the Thriver School of Transformation, which is a monthly membership where we meet live weekly and we talk about all of this together. So if you feel like that's something you might be interested in, make sure you check out the link in the description box below. Okay, so the things that I'm going to list right now as to what causes a person to self-sabotage, I'm listing because I went through them too. Okay, so I know what it's like to be up against things that are trying to pull you back instead of helping you to move forward on the healing journey. The first thing that I wanted to mention that causes self-sabotage is impatience. Okay, when it comes to working through the side effects of complex PTSD and narcissistic abuse, a lot of people, I was one of them, we approach it in a sense where we learn, like we get it. In fact, a lot of us could probably have a degree in narcology, right? Narcissism 101. We have a degree in that with all the studying that we did. And so we get it on a logical level. So as we're working through to heal, we can be super impatient with ourselves. And we're thinking, well, why am I still working through this? Come on, let's go. Let's have it over with. I want to see change now. And we approach it with that intensity and we approach it with that impatience. Now here's the problem. That emotion, that intensity and that impatience actually will prolong and cause you to self-sabotage because either that was the way you were treated as a child, right? You're accidentally, without realizing it, treating yourself in the way that you were treated by a narcissistic parent who maybe pushed and pushed and pushed and shoved and expected you to be able to do things that were challenging at the pace that they wanted you to do them, not at a pace that was comfortable for you. Okay, so you're almost reparenting yourself the way your parent parented you. And the reason this causes self-sabotage is think about it. Think about it. When you were treated that way in childhood, when you were shoved and pushed and expected to be, accomplishing and doing, how did you feel? Did that feel good? Did it help you? Or did it cause you an intense amount of stress, throw you into fight or flight? Okay, because if we're actually doing that now, we're going to have the same responses in our body. We're going to get tense, it's going to throw us into fight or flight, and we're going to give up because it's too intense. I took a course on the Limbic System, and one of the things that really opened my eyes was how it helped me to understand that our limbic system kind of has the emotional makeup as a 4-year-old. Which means, think about a 4-year-old who's trying to tie their shoe, right? That child is trying to learn something new. Now imagine a parent saying, come on, do it, quick, do it. Is that child going to be able to tie their shoe easily, with confidence, feeling safe? No. The child is going to freeze up, tense up, and shut down. When we treat ourselves like that on the healing journey, our limbic system responds the same way. It shuts down and it just feels overwhelmed and doesn't want to keep trying. Number 2, the second reason people tend to self-sabotage on the healing journey is because they haven't learned how to be comfortable with discomfort. Okay, so talking about the narcissist and what they did can feel comfortable. It can feel validating. It can feel good in a way because you're getting the validation that you never got when you were in the relationship or when you were being raised in those dynamics. So it almost feels comfortable to be able to do that. People get it and you're getting it out. However, talking about the narcissist, even learning about the narcissist, those are the first steps towards healing, but they're not enough to help you to shift completely, or at least in a way that will create lasting change. So eventually, at some point, we have to change from looking externally to looking internally, and looking at ourselves and looking at the coping skills that we developed as a result of narcissistic abuse or childhood trauma. We have to look at how we changed, right? Because the brain changes because of the emotional trauma, the body changes, your neural pathways change, your thought patterns, your belief system. Everything has changed, and no amount of learning about the other person is going to help you to rewire and rebalance after the abuse. We have to, at some point, put all of the focus back on ourselves. However, the brain doesn't necessarily like to do that, because your brain is a mechanism that's designed to cause you to shrink away from pain and towards pleasure. And when you look within, that means you're focusing on the wounds that were inflicted because of what you went through. And think about it. Those wounds, those emotions, those beliefs, those thoughts, whenever you try to express them in the past, you were met with something negative. So your brain associates those wounds with danger. And when it does that, when you're starting to look at those wounds, it'll send you like messages in your body where you'll start to feel really uncomfortable. And the reason you're feeling uncomfortable is because you're actually looking at the real wound. However, that can be really scary and daunting for anybody that is just new at being comfortable in their body and learning how to feel. So sometimes people will start the process, and when it comes to really looking at their wounds and they feel that discomfort, they're afraid of those feelings because their brain has kept and hid those feelings from them for a long time. And there's fear there. There's fear at those emotions because the last time you experienced those emotions, it was so overwhelming. Your subconscious didn't forget. It will remember what it felt like to feel those wounds as if they happened yesterday. And so as you're healing, your body's going through this process of, looking at what it's been trying to run from or hide from. And that causes discomfort, and a lot of people just check out because they find that too overwhelming. The third reason we often self-sabotage is because when we are healing, especially at the beginning of our healing journey, we have a lot of triggers. And our triggers can get set off by another person, whether they do it intentionally or not. Our triggers can get set off by somebody else's story, right? If we're, for example, in the Thriver School of Transformation, we do a lot of sharing of what we've gone through, and somebody listening that is still unhealed. When you hear somebody else's story, it touches on your unhealed wounds, and that can cause a trigger, right? Also, maybe the way somebody else responds to what you're going through can cause a trigger. And when we are triggered, we want to fight or flight, right? And so sometimes people flee the healing journey because of their triggers. They're being triggered for who knows what, and they just react. I've seen people get triggered simply by being their authentic self, where they show up as their authentic self, which may sound like a small thing, but for anyone that's been through narcissistic abuse, especially in childhood, showing up as your authentic self is scary. Because in childhood, anytime you were your authentic self, you were criticized, emotionally abandoned, or punished for it. So the thought of being yourself, there's a lot of fear there. So sometimes people will show up as themselves and then they'll run because the fear of what they think will happen because they're in an emotional flashback. So sometimes our trauma responses can feel so overwhelming that we kind of detour from the healing journey. The fourth reason I've seen people self-sabotage is because they will actually experience a shift, right? They'll start applying something and they'll experience a shift, and then they'll self-sabotage because they haven't understood yet that even though you've felt and tasted the shift of what you really want, it takes time for that behavior, thought process, action, feeling, emotion, whatever the shift was, it takes time for that to grow into your new default. So what will happen is people will learn some tools, some mindsets. They'll start applying them. They'll feel that shift and they'll stop their healing journey because they felt it. They're like, oh, I'm good now, right? They leave, and often they'll come back months later in the same place that they were prior to the shift because they didn't realize what they needed to do to continue enhancing that shift so that it becomes permanent. So they leave too fast or too early from the healing journey. The fifth reason that I've seen is that this one I've seen a lot for people that are still in a relationship. So let's say somebody was severe codependent with somebody that was severe narcissist, right? And the person that was codependent is changing, and they're healing, and they're strengthening their self-love, their self-respect. They're changing the dynamics in the relationship. Now, this could be with a couple, or it could be an adult child of narcissists to their adult parent. However, their positive changes cause so much anguish in the family members that they're with that it gets confusing, and it wakes up an old belief that, you know, they're doing something wrong or they're bad, right? They're in some way bad. So they stop progressing and they go back to how they were, not realizing that that's what the narcissistic parent wants, because that's how the narcissistic parent stays balanced. It's the craziest thing, but the healthier you get, the more unhappy your narcissistic parent will be. Your narcissistic parent needs you to be chasing after them, to need their validation, to not feel secure in your own skin. They need that so that they can feel balanced and secure in their own skin. The second you're getting better, they feel like they start to notice how they really are. And that could be really confusing for people that are healing because it doesn't make sense. Like, how can we think that a narcissistic parent wouldn't want you to get better, wouldn't want you to get healthier? It's hard to even comprehend that. In fact, I've worked with a lot of clients that tell me, Michele, I was in therapy and I tried to get my therapist to understand this, but they didn't get it. And they felt like it was me, like it was I was doing something wrong. I was looking at it in a negative way. So not understanding that the narcissist doesn't want you to get better, an adult child can get sucked back into the cycle of push and pull with the narcissistic parent. They abandon the healing journey because instead of having positive results on their family, and again, I'm talking about family that's not healthy, they just think that it's not worth it, right? Because there's just too much negativity there. And the last reason, and this is not like the only reason, the only last reason, this isn't an all-inclusive list. These are things that I noticed, these are things that I've gone through, and these are things that I see a lot of, okay? But trust me, I'm sure I'm missing a lot. So if any come to your mind, make sure you put it in the comment section below and share with others, okay? But the last reason that I see why people self-sabotage is because they have beliefs that are holding them back. So our beliefs can be like a springboard or they can be like a hammock, right? If we have empowering beliefs, they help us move forward. If we have disempowering beliefs, they keep us from doing anything or acting in any way that's beneficial. Or if we do act in ways that are beneficial, they pull us back through self-sabotage. So some of the common beliefs that keep a person stuck are, it's impossible to heal. Other people can heal, but I can't. Or it's not safe to heal. Something bad will happen if I heal. So if those beliefs are running in your subconscious mind, and on a conscious level, you are learning and doing everything you can to heal and get better, your conscious mind is no match for your subconscious mind. So what will happen is, because your brain is like a cybernetic mechanism, very much like your AC unit, right? Your AC unit is programmed to be at 70 degrees. So if it's a hot summer day and you open the door, your AC doesn't do anything at first. It takes a little bit before it starts detecting that the temperature has changed. But the second it recognizes that the temperature has changed, it kicks on and it does everything in its power to bring that temperature back to 70 degrees. Well, our subconscious mind is like that. If in your subconscious, the belief is, I can't heal, it's impossible, or healing is dangerous, every time you're doing things that are helping you to heal, right? Your subconscious mind doesn't notice at first. It's like, yeah, she'll stop in a couple days. No big deal. But suddenly the days go on, and your subconscious mind is watching, and it realizes you've been operating outside of your belief system for quite a while. It kicks on, and it does everything in its power to bring you back to the beliefs that it holds within. And one of the strongest ways it does that is through procrastination and self-sabotage. So healing isn't just about what we do externally or on the surface. We really got to get to the root of the problem. So those are 6 reasons why we could sometimes be longer on the healing journey than we would like. Okay, I would be curious to know which ones resonate with you. So let me know in the comment section below. And as a reminder, if the videos aren't enough and you feel like you're in this cycle and you're tired of it and you want more, make sure you check out the links in the description, because there are a lot more tools and resources that might be just what you need so that you can continue to move forward on your healing journey.